The morning my name showed up everywhere, my phone stayed quiet. No buzzing, no congratulations, no sudden pride from people who used to say they loved me. Just the low hum of the dishwasher cycling behind me and the gray light sliding across my kitchen floor. I was standing barefoot on cold tile coffee untouched, staring at my reflection in the dark glass of the balcony door when the article went live. A long feature, clean headline, my face, my company, my age. Words like breakout founder and self-made stacked neatly under my name like proof I hadn't imagined the last 8 years. I felt nothing. No rush, no relief. Just a hollow stillness, like the air right before something breaks. Then my phone lit up. One message, from a number I had deleted so long ago, my thumb hovered, unsure if it was real. Mom, Sunday dinner, 7 p.m. Family only. We need to talk. I read it twice, then a third time. 8 years. 8 years of silence. 8 years of birthdays with no cards. 8 years of holidays where I stopped checking my phone halfway through the day because I already knew what wouldn't be there, and now we need to talk. That phrase had a sound, a weight, a history. It never meant conversation. It meant demand. I set my phone face down on the counter. The screen went black. My reflection stared back, older than the girl who left sharper around the eyes. That was the first second something in me tightened. If you've ever had family treat you like you don't matter, like you're disposable, until you become useful, hit like and subscribe right now. Because what happened after that text wasn't reconciliation. It was something colder, something final. 8 years earlier, the kitchen looked almost the same. Same house, same long island with the chipped corner, same overhead lights too bright for night. I was 19, a backpack at my feet. One sleeve of my jacket half on the other slipping down my arm because my hands were shaking and I didn't want anyone to see. "I'm not staying," I said. My father didn't look at me at first. He cut his steak with slow, precise strokes as if timing mattered. The knife scraped the plate. "You'll stay," he said. "Flat. Certain. I'm leaving tomorrow." That got his attention. He lifted his head and stared at me like I'd just spoken a language he didn't respect. "You don't leave this family," he said. "You finish what you start. I'm not finishing something I never chose." Silence fell heavy. The refrigerator kicked on. The sound filled the space between us. My mother sat at the far end of the table, hands folded, eyes on the salt shaker. "Not on me. Never on me when it mattered." My younger brother snorted, didn't even bother to hide it. "So you're really doing this?" he said. Running off to play startup queen, I didn't answer him. My father pushed his chair back, hard. It scraped loud enough to make my chest jump. "You walk out that door," he said, standing now, towering, "and you are done." Done. The word landed like a door slamming shut. "You won't get help," he continued. "No money, no safety net, no crawling back when you fail." My mother finally looked up, not at me, past me, at the wall, at the clock, anywhere but my face. "I raised you better than this," she said quietly. That hurt more than the shouting. My Aunt Bethany leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, mouth curled. She always enjoyed other people's losses. "Don't worry," she said. "Reality will fix her. It always does." I waited. For someone to say my name. For someone to say wait. For someone to say she's still family. No one did. My jacket slid the rest of the way off my arm and hung there useless. I bent down, grabbed my bag, and that was when a hand closed around my wrist. Not tight, not shaking, steady. My grandmother. She hadn't spoken all night. She rarely did when voices got loud. She pulled me closer just enough that her shoulder blocked me from the table. "Don't beg," she whispered. "Don't explain. Just go." She slipped something into my palm. Folded bills, warm from her pocket. "And don't come back to prove them right," she added. "Come back when you don't need them." My father saw the exchange. His jaw tightened. "That's it," he said. "From this moment on, you are not Elaine." He didn't shout. He didn't have to. My brother laughed. Short, mean. Guess that makes room on the Wi-Fi. My mother said nothing. I stepped outside into the night air and didn't look back. For the next 8 years, my family treated me like I'd died. No calls, no messages, No curiosity about whether I was sleeping on a couch or a floor. I learned how quiet the world gets when the people who made you decide you're inconvenient. And now after an article, a valuation, a headline, they wanted dinner. I picked up my phone again. I typed one word, "Okay." Then I locked the screen. The dishwasher clicked off. The apartment went still. Somewhere outside, traffic hissed against wet pavement. I walked into my bedroom and opened the safe built into the back of the closet. Inside, neat, minimal, a passport, a backup drive, a slim black folder. I took the folder out and ran my thumb along its edge. That was the second something in me snapped. Not anger, not sadness, clarity. They didn't miss me. They missed leverage. Sunday was 3 days away. I spent them working, sleeping lightly, ignoring the second message from my mother. "Can't wait to see you." Ignoring the third. "We should have talked sooner. Too late had wait now." Sunday evening came gray and cold. I rented a black Escalade instead of my usual compact. Not for comfort, for visibility. As I pulled onto the highway, my phone buzzed once more. "Mom, wear something nice." I didn't reply. The neighborhood hadn't changed. Same trimmed hedges, same flags, same houses pretending permanence was loyalty. Their porch lights snapped on as I pulled into the driveway. The door opened before I knocked. My mother smiled too fast. Her eyes flicked past me, already counting. The car, the coat, the way I stood. "There you are," she said, voice high. "You look, well." My father appeared behind her, older, heavier, still stiff. "Long time," he said, extending a hand like we were colleagues. I didn't take it. My brother lounged in the living room, feet on the table phone glowing blue against his face. He glanced up, gave a lazy nod. "Hey." My Aunt Bethany tilted her head, eyes sharp. "Wow," she said softly. "You clean up." The house smelled like roast meat and polish. Familiar, claustrophobic. We sat. Plates clinked. Glasses filled. Questions floated, safe ones. How's work? How's the city? Is it true what they say online? No one apologized. Halfway through the meal, my mother set her fork down. She folded her napkin with careful hands. "We're glad you're here," she said. "We really are." I looked at her. She took a breath. "We just need your help." There it was. That was the moment the room went cold. And the moment I knew this dinner wasn't about family at all. I didn't cry that night. I expected to. I waited for it. Everyone says you cry when your family cuts you off, like something essential gets ripped out and your body knows before your brain does. But the tears never came. I stood at the bus stop 3 blocks from the house, jacket-zipped crooked backpack, digging into one shoulder, watching the windows of my childhood glow warm behind curtains I'd never pass through again. The streetlight above me flickered. On, off, on again. I kept thinking someone would run after me, my mother breathless, my father angry but cracked open, even my brother smirking less. No footsteps came. The bus arrived with a tired hiss of brakes. I got on without looking back. That was the first lesson: when people decide you're disposable, they don't announce it. They just stop reaching. The bus dropped me at the station near midnight. I bought the cheapest ticket I could afford, one-way, non-refundable, leaving before dawn. I didn't care where it stopped as long as it didn't turn around. I sat on a hard plastic bench under fluorescent lights that made everyone look sick. My phone battery blinked red. No new messages. Of course not. I powered it off. For the next 12 hours, I was just a girl with a bag and nowhere that wanted her. When I stepped off at my final stop, the city smelled like rain and exhaust. My shoes were already wrong for the sidewalks. I checked my wallet. After food and the ticket, I had just under $400 left. That was supposed to be enough to start a life. It wasn't. The first couch lasted 3 weeks. The second lasted 10 days. By the third, people stopped answering texts. I learned how to fold myself small, how to wake before anyone else, how to scrub pans like gratitude depended on it. I took the first job that didn't ask too many questions, a night shift at a call center that sold warranties no one wanted. The headset pinched my ears. The scripts were lies, stacked on lies. I repeated them anyway, voice flat, while the clock crept. During the day, I worked a warehouse picker job, pulling items off shelves until my wrists burned. At night, I watched free coding lectures on library computers, headphones cracked fingers stiff. I slept 4 hours if I was lucky. Some nights I slept on the floor of the warehouse break room after my shift jacket folded under my head because the last bus had already gone and I didn't have enough left for a ride. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was proud, because there was no one left to tell. Every few weeks my grandmother called from a number that changed every time. Burner phones, minutes counted. "You eating?" she asked. "Yes," I lied. "You safe?" "Yes." She never pushed. Never asked where I slept. Never said I told you so. Before she hung up, she always said the same thing: "Keep your name clean." I didn't understand what she meant at first. Then the bills came: medical, late fees, interest stacking like punishment. I watched coworkers take payday loans and disappear under them. I watched people smarter than me quit because survival got louder than ambition. I decided early I wouldn't beg. If I failed, it would be quietly. I built my first prototype on borrowed Wi-Fi and an old laptop someone sold me cheap because one of the ports didn't work. The screen flickered when it got hot. I learned to save every 10 minutes. The app was ugly, slow, but it worked. It tracked expenses automatically, flagged leaks, talked to small business owners like they were adults, not idiots. I launched it to no one, then 10 people, then 50. I didn't celebrate. I couldn't afford to. Year 2 was worse than year 1. Expectations grow faster than income. So does exhaustion. I lost 10 pounds. My hair thinned. I drank coffee until my hands shook and then drank more to hide it. When my phone rang and an investor asked to meet, I hung up by accident. My hands were numb. I walked 3 miles to that meeting because I didn't trust my balance to drive. They passed. So did the next 3. I learned not to flinch when people smiled and said interesting. I learned how to keep my voice even when they talked over me. By year 4, the app was paying my rent. By year 5, it was paying salaries. By year 6, journalists started circling. Still nothing from home. Not when I was hospitalized overnight with pneumonia. Not when my company hit its first $1 million in revenue. Not when my name appeared briefly on a tech blog my brother definitely read. I existed in their world only as absence. I told myself it didn't matter. That was a lie, but it kept me moving. The call from my grandmother came late one night in year 7. Her voice sounded thinner. "They're in trouble," she said. I didn't ask who. "Your father expanded too fast," she continued. "Loans on variable rates, new equipment, warehouses half empty. Why are you telling me I asked?" "I'm not asking you to fix it," she said quickly. "I wouldn't do that to you." There was a pause. "I just thought you deserved to know before it gets ugly." I stared at the city through my apartment window, lights stacked like lives I didn't touch. How bad, I asked. She exhaled. "Bad enough. I didn't sleep that night." I started reading, quietly, carefully. I learned how debt moved when no one was paying attention, how notes were traded, how obligations outlived pride. I didn't act right away. I waited. By the time the article hit and my mother found my number again, I'd already spent months on the other side of the table, not as a daughter, not as family, as someone who understood contracts. The night before Sunday dinner, I stood in my bathroom staring at myself under harsh light. I looked composed, controlled. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger burns fast. What I felt was colder, sharper, like glass. I dressed without rushing. Black coat, clean lines, no jewelry except my watch. When I closed the door behind me, my apartment echoed. Empty, earned. As I drove toward the house that once erased me, I thought about the girl at the bus stop, the one who kept waiting for footsteps that never came. I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt grateful. Because if they'd chased me that night, if they'd softened even a little, I might have gone back. And then I wouldn't have learned what it costs to survive without permission. By the time I turned onto their street, the sky had darkened. Porch lights blinked on one by one like signals. I parked, cut the engine, sat still. Inside voices floated, laughter practiced and bright. They were ready for me now. They just didn't know what I'd brought with me. Success didn't arrive with applause. It came quietly, incremental, unforgiving. The first real win was a contract I almost missed because I was asleep on my keyboard. A small regional distributor, 20 licenses, barely enough to matter, enough to change everything. I stared at the email for a full minute before replying. My chest felt tight, like my body didn't trust good news anymore. I accepted. Then I stood up too fast and had to grab the desk to steady myself. That was how it went for a long time. One step forward, no celebration, no witnesses. I moved out of shared housing into a studio with a window that faced a brick wall. I bought a real chair. I replaced the laptop that used to overheat and shut itself down like it was tired of my ambition. I still worked too much. I just worked cleaner. By year 4, I had 3 employees. By year 5, 12. I learned how to fire fast and hire slow. I learned how to sit through meetings where men explained my own product back to me with confidence. I stopped correcting them. Let them talk. Let them underestimate. That lesson paid for itself. The app matured. It stopped being clever and started being useful. It flagged expense fraud before accountants noticed. It warned owners before cash flow broke their knees. It didn't flatter. It told the truth early. People paid for that. Revenue climbed. Press followed. Not the flashy kind at first industry blogs, niche podcasts, panels where I was the only woman and the youngest by a decade. I wore black, spoke less, let numbers do the work. My grandmother called every month still from a new number, her voice steadier when she heard mine. "You sound tired," she said once. "I am," I answered. "That means you're doing something real," she replied. Then she changed the subject. She always did. I didn't think about my family anymore, not consciously. They existed like old furniture, something you forget until you trip over the memory. Then the call came, late. Too late for small talk. They refinanced again, my grandmother said. Against the fleet this time. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone pressed to my ear, staring at the carpet. Why, I asked. She hesitated. Because they think it'll turn. And will it? No, she said simply. I thanked her and hung up. That night, I didn't open my laptop to code. I opened it to read. Loan structures, priority clauses, cross-collateralization. Things people assume only banks understand. Things families don't talk about until they're choking on them. I learned how companies bleed without making a sound. I didn't rush. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell my board. I just paid attention. Over the next few months, I met people who didn't care about my last name. Debt brokers, asset managers, analysts who spoke in percentages and timelines instead of feelings. I asked questions, precise ones. What happens when rates spike and revenue doesn't? What happens when lenders get nervous? What happens when pride delays restructuring? The answers were consistent. Ownership changes hands before anyone admits they've lost control. I set up a holding structure that didn't carry my name. Clean, boring, impossible to gossip about. Then I waited. The article came out on a Tuesday morning. Bloomberg. Long profile. Photos that made me look calmer than I felt. I skimmed it once. Closed the tab. By noon, my phone started buzzing. Unknown numbers. Media requests. Old acquaintances resurfacing like algae. By evening, the text arrived. Sunday dinner. Family only. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I called someone. Miles, I said when he picked up. Yes, I'm going home this weekend. A pause. Not surprise, just recalibration. Do you want me there, he asked. Not yet, I said. But be ready. Understood. The next 3 days moved fast. I reviewed documents, signed 2, declined 4. I chose a rental car I wouldn't normally drive. Not flashy, just heavy. Impossible to ignore. On Sunday afternoon, I dressed slowly, intentionally. The way you do when you're preparing for a long meeting, not a reunion. Before I left, my phone rang. My grandmother. I hear you're going to dinner, she said. Yes. Another pause. Be careful what you give them, she said softly. I won't give them anything, I replied. She exhaled. Relief or worry, I couldn't tell. I'm proud of you, she said. I closed my eyes. I know I answered. The drive felt shorter than it should have. Familiar exits. Streets with names I remembered from childhood, now carrying weight instead of comfort. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed the small things, the way the garage light flickered, the crack in the walkway they never fixed, the car in the drive that wasn't there last year. Inside, laughter spilled too easily, the sound of a performance already in progress. My mother opened the door before I knocked, smiled like we were catching up, not circling. "You made it," she said. "Yes," I replied. The house felt smaller. Dinner unfolded like theater. Compliments, questions, the illusion of interest. I answered politely, briefly. I watched hands, watched eyes. My father talked too much, my aunt too carefully, my brother too casually. They were all waiting. When the plates were cleared and the room settled, my mother reached for her water glass. Her hand trembled, just slightly. She set it down. "We didn't want to do this over the phone," she said. "Of course not." My father straightened, folded his hands, adopted the voice he used in negotiations. "We need a bridge," he said, "just temporary." I looked at him. How much, I asked. He named the number without blinking. I nodded once. Silence stretched. They leaned forward, every face hopeful in a way that made my stomach turn. That was when I felt it again. Not anger, not pain, that cold, clear stillness. I reached into my coat pocket and felt the edge of my phone. Smooth. Solid. "Interesting timing," I said. My mother frowned. "What do you mean?" I stood. "I mean," I said evenly, "you stopped treating me like family 8 years ago." The room stiffened. "And you started treating me like an option the moment it became expensive not to." No one spoke. I pressed one button. The front door opened behind me. Footsteps crossed the tile, unhurried, deliberate. Miles entered the room, coat still on expression unreadable. "Good evening," he said. Every eye shifted. That was the moment the balance changed. They just didn't know it yet. The room didn't move at first. It froze. My mother's smile cracked and didn't quite fall. My father stayed seated, hands still folded, eyes already sharpening like he was recalculating a deal. My brother finally set his phone down. Screen dark attention caught for the first time all night. Aunt Bethany straightened, slowly. Predators always do when something unfamiliar walks in. Miles closed the front door behind him. The sound landed clean. Final. "Who is this?" my father asked, voice tight. Miles didn't answer him. He walked to the dining table and set a slim leather portfolio down between the serving platter and the untouched bread basket. He didn't open it yet. "My name is Miles Carter," he said calmly. "I represent Harper Lane." My mother's eyes flicked to me, wide, searching. "You brought a lawyer," she whispered. I didn't sit back down. "You brought an invoice," I said. "I brought a translator." Bethany scoffed. "This is unnecessary." "No," Miles said gently. "This is overdue." My father pushed his chair back an inch, just enough to reassert control. "We're having a family discussion." Miles nodded. "Then I'll keep this brief." He opened the portfolio. Paper slid against paper. Clean, crisp, the sound of preparation. He removed the first document and placed it in front of my father. "This is a notice of assignment," he said. "Executed 6 months ago." My father glanced at it. Once. Twice. His brow furrowed. "What is this?" he snapped. "A record." Miles replied, showing that the senior secured position on Lane Logistics' revolving credit facility was transferred. Bethany leaned forward, snatched the page, scanned it faster than she should have been able to. "That's not possible," she said. "We would have been notified." "You were," Miles replied. "Certified mail, twice. Your general counsel signed for it." He slid the next document across the table. "And this," he continued, "is the amendment confirming priority rights under the cross-collateralization clause." My mother's wineglass trembled. She grabbed it too hard. Red sloshed against the rim. My brother laughed, sharp and nervous. "This is a joke, right?" Miles finally looked at him. Just once. "No!" Silence thickened. My father stood up so fast, his chair tipped backward and hit the floor with a hollow crack. "You think you can scare us with paperwork?" he barked. "This is our company." Miles didn't raise his voice. "This is your signature. he said, tapping the page. "And this one. And this one." He laid them out like cards, one by one. Loan schedules, security interests, fleet liens, warehouse deeds. My aunt's face drained of color. She sat back, hard fingers gripping the edge of the table. My mother's breath went shallow. "Harper," she said, voice breaking at the edges. "What is this?" I looked at her. "This," I said, "is what happens when you stop returning calls and start signing whatever keeps the lights on." My father slammed his palm down. Plates rattled. "You did this behind our backs," Miles answered before I could. "Ms. Lane did nothing behind your backs," he said. "She purchased interests that were offered for sale on the secondary market." "That's predatory," Bethany hissed. "That's commerce," Miles replied. "The contracts don't care how you feel about it." My brother pushed away from the table, standing now, eyes wild. "You planned this." I met his stare. "I prepared," I said. "You ignored." The room erupted. My mother sobbed loud and sudden, as if grief had been waiting for permission. My father shouted over her words, tangling family blood betrayal. Bethany paced heels, clicking like a countdown. My brother cursed under his breath, pacing too fast for the space. Miles waited. When the noise peaked, he closed the portfolio. The sound was small. It cut through everything. As of 6:12 p.m., he said evenly, "Lane Logistics is in breach of its coverage ratios under 3 active facilities." My father froze. "What does that mean?" my mother whispered. "It means Miles said the lenders have the right to accelerate." Bethany spun toward me. "You wouldn't." I tilted my head. "I already did." Miles opened the final document and slid it forward, a single page. Notice of acceleration. The date, the time, tonight. My mother's glass slipped from her fingers. It shattered against the hardwood red, spilling across the floor like a fresh wound. My brother dropped to his knees beside her, hands shaking. "Mom." She didn't faint. She just stared at the mess, breathing hard like her body had forgotten the order of things. My father's face went purple. "This is extortion." Miles shook his head. "Extortion involves threats. This is enforcement." Bethany lunged for the papers. "We'll sue." "You can," Miles said calmly. "But you'll lose." He slid one last folder onto the table. "This," he said, "is Ms. Lane's offer." I stepped forward and placed it squarely in front of them. Inside was a cashier's check. Thick, clean, official. $420,000. Beneath it, a settlement agreement. My mother looked from the check to me, tears streaking her face. "You'd really do this to us," I answered quietly. "You did it to me first." My father stared at the number like it insulted him. "That's it. That's more than I left with," I replied. Bethany scanned the agreement, lips moving. Her hands shook. "This says—" she swallowed. "This says we walk away." "Yes," I said. "No claims, no appeals, no future contact, no use of my name, no access to my company. Ever." My brother looked up at me from the floor. "You're cutting us off." I met his eyes. "You declared me gone," I said. "I'm just making it official." Silence returned. Heavier this time. My mother reached for my hand. I let her fingers hover. They didn't touch. "This could fix everything," she whispered. "No," I said. "This ends it." The grandfather clock in the hall began to chime. Once, twice, 3 times. My father's shoulders sagged. Years of authority collapsed into something smaller. He reached for the pen. His hand shook as he signed. Bethany followed, carving her name like it might fight back. My brother hesitated, jaw clenched, then scribbled his signature, eyes burning. My mother took the pen last. She stared at the page for a long time. Then she signed. When she finished, she didn't look at me. Miles collected the papers, checked each line, each initial. "Effective immediately," he said, sliding the check forward. "This matter is resolved." I picked up my coat. "Dinner was lovely," I said. No one replied. As I turned toward the door, my mother finally spoke. Her voice was small. "I should have called." I paused. So did everything inside me. Then I opened the door. "I stopped waiting," I said, and walked out. The fallout didn't arrive with sirens. It came in envelopes, registered mail, forwarding notices, quiet changes that never make headlines. Within 30 days, the house went on the market. The listing photos tried to pretend nothing had cracked fresh flowers, wide angles the lie of warm light. It sold below asking. Pride is expensive when time is short. My father moved into a one-bedroom near the highway, a place with thin walls and a view of traffic he couldn't control. People who once shook his hand at charity dinners stopped returning calls. Authority doesn't survive exposure. My mother filed for divorce shortly after. No announcement, no explanation, just paperwork and a new address I never asked for. She sent one message, "I hope you're well." I didn't reply. Some bridges are better left as distances. Bethany tried to pivot. New ventures, loud optimism. She learned the hard way that reputation travels faster than excuses. Vendors remember who squeezed them. Banks remember who missed payments. Doors close quietly when they're done with you. My brother drifted, job to job. Rideshare stickers peeling from the back window of his car. He never reached out. I never wondered why. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. The company stabilized faster than expected. Once the noise cleared, the numbers spoke. We sold what didn't serve us, kept what did, promoted people who'd stayed late when things were ugly, gave raises that didn't come with speeches. I renamed nothing, rebranded nothing. Power doesn't need new paint. On Sundays, I still took my grandmother's calls at 4 on the dot, always from a different number, always brief. They move out? Yet she asked once. Yes. Good, she said. Big houses hold too much echo. A month later, I bought her a small condo near the park. 2 bedrooms, sun in the morning, quiet at night. She refused anything larger. I want peace, she said, not square footage. I helped her unpack. Hung her coats, set her kettle on the stove the way she liked it, handle turned just so. She didn't ask where the money came from. She never did. Winter came early that year, the kind that presses the world flat and makes everything honest. Snow softened the city. Sound disappeared. On Christmas Eve, I drove to her place with a small tree in the trunk and groceries balanced on the seat beside me. No caterer, no playlist curated for appearances, just food we'd actually eat. She opened the door in plaid pajamas and thick socks, hair pinned back like she'd been expecting me all day. "You're late," she said. "You're early," I replied. We laughed. We decorated the tree with a dozen ornaments she'd saved in a shoebox. Each one held a year, scratched glass, bent hooks, memory without performance. She poured cocoa into mismatched mugs, added a splash of peppermint, sat back in her chair and watched the lights blink. "You did good," she said quietly. I stared at the tree. "I did what I had to." She shook her head. "No, you did better." Later, she handed me a small box wrapped in plain paper. Inside was a laminated note edges worn smooth. Her handwriting. The same message she'd pressed into my palm 8 years earlier. "Don't come back to beg. Come back to choose." My throat tightened. I didn't speak. Some things don't need sound. We sat on the floor backs against the couch listening to an old record crackle through the room. Outside, snow fell steady and patient. For the first time, the quiet didn't feel like absence. It felt earned. In the months that followed, I learned a new rhythm. Work without survival. Panic. Nights without rehearsing conversations that would never happen. Mornings that didn't begin with checking a phone for proof of worth. I stopped explaining myself. To investors, to strangers, to people who shared my last name once. I kept my boundaries boring and firm. No speeches, no public statements, just consistency. People noticed. The right ones stayed. Sometimes I caught my reflection in a window and saw the girl at the bus stop. A gun jacket, crooked bag, too heavy, waiting for footsteps. I didn't feel pity. I felt gratitude. If they had called me back that night, if my mother had reached out, if my father had softened, I might have returned. I might have shrunk to fit a space that only valued me when it was convenient. They didn't, so I grew. On the anniversary of the dinner, I received a single message from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy." I deleted it. Happiness isn't something you owe explanations for. That winter ended gently. Spring came slow. My grandmother planted herbs on her balcony. I visited every Sunday at 4. We talked about everything except them. And that's how I knew it was over. Not because they suffered, not because I won, but because their absence finally stopped making noise. Real family, I learned, doesn't declare you dead when you choose yourself. They stay when you have nothing left to give. And they sit beside you in the quiet, letting the future arrive without asking for anything in return.